Hey y'all, welcome to Running from 40. And in this video, we're going to be continuing our series on getting started with running. So we started off with running form. We then went to running intensity and volume. We've also talked about warming up, cooling down, rest, and recovery. But now we're going to transition from the running itself and some of the activities surrounding it to the gear that we use while we run. And I thought it was worthwhile to dedicate an entire video just to running footwear. So if we want to understand what's best running footwear for us, I think it's first important to understand what the foot does while we run. The foot does not need help to run. All things equal, most people's feet are perfectly suited to propel forward movement in an efficient, healthy, safe way. So what does the foot do when we run? It doesn't just on the ground and spring forward. It actually comes down, and in the process of compressing, it starts on the outside of the foot and it kind of rolls inward. The toes splay out, and then your foot is prepared to propel you into forward motion. This is called pronation. And you may have a negative association with that word because a lot of people talk about overpronation. We talk about shoes that limit or impede our pronation. But pronation in and of itself is a totally natural process intrinsic to the foot, and it's good, it's helpful, it's beneficial. We want to pronate. It helps absorb shock. It helps us be healthy, efficient, well-adjusted runners. So let's keep that in mind. As we're looking for a shoe, we want something, again, that helps and doesn't hinder this natural running process. So what are the things we talked about there? We want to be able to pronate, and when we're pronating, our toes are splaying. And so when I look at a running shoe, those are the types of things that I'm considering. In a sense, I want a running shoe that's going to get out of the way and allow my foot to be a foot. Now, actually, if you wanted to ask me what's the perfect thing to put on your foot while you're running, if you were on a track that was free from any potentially harmful debris, glass, sharp stones, things that could cut you or leave painful abrasions on your feet, I would actually say going barefoot is tremendously beneficial. And I recommend barefoot running to everybody. But as you can see, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what that means. So I'm not a barefoot aficionado. I don't only barefoot run. I actually don't barefoot run a whole lot, especially right now because I don't have a spot where I can do it without some of the aforementioned issues of things that might cut my feet. So, but barefoot running in and of itself is tremendous. And what it does is it puts you in touch with the ground. It's a real great reset. It's a great diagnostic tool. You can feel the ground. There's something called proprioception, and that is your foot's ability to feel and to basically get a good sense of what's underneath it and how that's impacting the way you move. So we want footwear that doesn't hinder this. Now, why do we want footwear at all? Well, I think footwear fundamentally should protect the foot. And I think the number one thing we're trying to protect our foot from is not actually impact, because as we said, we have natural ways to mitigate impact and shock that comes from this dynamic movement called running. The most important thing is to keep our feet safe from cuts and scrapes that are going to happen from the fact that we're in these environments that often have rocks, glass, stuff like that would be painful to land on. So if we're not going to be running barefoot, which again I do recommend, I think it has its place in every runner's diet of what they do. But if we're not going to run barefoot all the time, what's the next best thing? Well, we're gonna kind of progress here, and we're gonna start off with something. I just brought my footwear here. So what will be the first thing, the first level up from barefoot? I would say something like this. It's a sandal. It might be surprising to you. You might think, how on earth could you run in a sandal? Well, what does a sandal do? Okay, let's again think about what are the things we need from our running footwear? And then we can look into, does what we're putting on our feet provide that? Okay, so this sandal in particular is made for running. First of all, it's important. You want something that's got straps that are meant for a sandal to be used running. Um, you want the footbed, the sole, to be made for running. So this is a Zero Z Trail sandal. Zero is XERO. I like them a lot. Most of the shoes I'm going to show you in this video are from Zero. It's a thin, flat sole, and this is like the first level of safer than barefoot running. So it provides something on the bottom of your foot that keeps your foot from getting cut or scraped while you're running. You can tighten the straps on top pretty well. And if you don't have real cold weather, or in my case, I don't run with sandals a lot because a lot of the trail or the spots that I go have gravel and whatnot, and so I don't have to deal with getting gravel stuck in my sandal while I'm running. But what does this do? It allows your toes to splay out naturally, so it's not cramping your toes. It allows pronation. Basically, it doesn't provide unnecessary support that hinders that that movement of your foot, and yeah, it just gets out of the way while providing protection so your foot doesn't get cut or scraped. And it's flat. Flat is important too. We are a culture that uses a lot of footwear that's built for fashion and not for function or health. And so people wear high heels or cowboy boots or whatnot. And what a heel does is, so imagine this is raised, it shortens your Achilles tendon. And in shortening your Achilles tendon, you're now opening yourself up to all sorts of potential for injuries because that Achilles is not used to the range of motion you're going to find in running. It's not getting a full range of motion. And yeah, it's going to impact your calf. It's going to impact a lot of components of your running. So I recommend flat shoes or close to flat. And most running shoes are not that way. So you do need to pay attention when you're going to buy running shoes. So again, Zero Z Trail, they make sandals that are thinner than this and some that are a little bit thicker, but perfectly adequate for a lot of runs that you might go on. So next up from that, we have something that I've worn a lot. This is also from Zero. This is called the Zero Prio, and it kind of looks like a skater shoe. Um, it's a little padded, as you can tell in here. It it to me doesn't look like your average running shoe, right? I use this more as a lifestyle shoe. I would say like every you can wear it just going out when you're not going to be running. But actually, I've ran a lot on this too. Zero does make running shoes like the HFS, the Speed Force, that would have the same kind of flat sole but less cushion. It'd be a lighter shoe, more breathable. But the Prio is one of their most affordable models, and it's yeah, it's perfectly adequate for running. Um, Flat. It's got a nice wide natural uh, toe box. Um, it's got a removable insole. I keep mine in, but you can remove that. So you basically only have this rubber sole between you and the ground. You can definitely feel pebbles and whatnot. So that's an option for you right there. Um, if you're going to be on the trails, Zero makes something called a Mesa Trail. It's got more grip on the bottom. I really, really like this. It's breathable, and it grips better. So that's one that I'll certainly wear from Zero as well. As I said, they have other options. I also have a pair of Vivo Barefoots. And Vivo Barefoot is good. Zero's just, I think, more affordable. Um, Vivo Barefoot, you usually have to order it from Europe. Sometimes places like REI will stock them, but for the most part, I think just considering expense, considering what's best value, I would probably be inclined to recommend the Zero. So then you might think to yourself, okay, so that's it. I should probably go for either this sandal, which maybe seems a little bit scary to some of y'all, or something like one of these shoes or one of the ones I mentioned. You might think to yourself, why would I need anything more? Does he have any more shoes he's going to show us? I do. I also have some ultras. Actually, these are new. I'm going to open this up. But before I show you this ultra, why do we need to keep going? I mean, I said zeros are a good value. They're flat, so they're zero drop. They have a nice natural toe box, and they don't hinder your pronation, your natural movement of your foot. So why do we need to keep going? Well, if your form was perfect, I think you'd be just fine running in a barefoot style shoe or running barefoot or running in a sandal every day, all day. But few of us are going to have perfect form. I'm not Eliud Kipchoge. I'm not anywhere near someone like him, nor will I ever be. And we're all different too. And that's really, really important to remember. Again, we go through these general principles that are applicable to everyone, but we have specific situations and we have specific seasons that we're in or goals that are going to align with a different shoe. So I have found that as I've started to put more miles on, so I did almost a year of running just in barefoot style shoes. It was fine, but I started to feel like my feet got sore, like I was sore overall, just kind of worn out, like my body was tired. And so I did transition to doing some of my runs in ultras. Now, Ultra, in addition to Newton and Topo, they're a running shoe brand that still uh, provides a natural toe box. They have flat or very close to it shoes, and they have a lot of simple models that are not trying to solve stability issues in your feet, again, which would be hindering the natural movement and pronation of your foot. So my favorite Ultra shoe is, and this is actually brand new, it's the Ultra Escalante Racer. And this is built for running faster. It has 22 millimeters stack height. So some of that's foam, some of that's just the sole. It does have an insole that you could take out. It's got that nice wide natural toe box. It is perfectly flat, so it is zero drop. And what I found is when I'm running more miles, something like this just takes some of the strain off my body. It's not seemed to hamper my running at all, and it helps. Some of the ultra shoes do have something they call guide rail technology, and I do recommend if you don't have stability issues, staying away from that because again, it's more like a cast. It's like you're putting a cast on your foot. And you'll never be developing those muscles and getting stronger. You may not get injured, at least not right away, but your foot's not doing what it's naturally meant to do. We're trying to solve a problem that isn't there. And so, and if I forget to mention this, that did just remind me. I do want to say this. We should remember one of the most important things to remember is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if you have a pair of running shoes and you are a runner and you aren't having a problem with injury, you don't want, you're not looking for solutions in that area, then just keep on doing what you're doing. I have a natural inclination to optimization, and I oftentimes have tried to mess around with things where I really wasn't having issues, and sometimes you can create issues where there aren't any. So I do want to point that out. But I think most people can benefit from better footwear, especially footwear that is in greater harmony with just the natural movement and physiology of the foot. So again, Ultra Escalante Racer. They discontinued them for a while, but now they're back and they're awesome. So I love them. And I actually go on from there. I have one more pair of shoes that I'll share, and that is another Ultra, and this is the Ultra Torin. This is the Torin 6. I wouldn't recommend going lower than the Torin 6 because the Torin 5 has a really bad tongue that would like cut you. You could try to trim it some with the scissors, but who wants to do that? They just came out with the Torin 7, and so the Torin 6 is on pretty good sale right now. Now, the Escalante Racer, some of the sole of that has a technology that makes it's pretty stiff and bouncy. So that is going to limit your proprioception, the feeling of the foot on the ground. Although I feel like most shoes kind of do that. Like I said, you could feel pebbles and whatnot with your zeros. You still can't feel the ground like you can when you're barefoot. And so what I do like about that stiffer sole in the Escalante is it's designed to be quick. It's designed to bounce, to come in contact with the ground and spring you forward. So you're not sinking into the ground. That's one of the arguments people have against cushion shoes is it's like you're running on memory foam. But not all foams are created equal. And if you go on a website like Ultra's website, you can compare the shoes and you can look at the different technology that each shoe uses. So if you see a thing like uh, I think the Escalante Racer has an Ego sole. This has Ego Max. Again, I alluded to their guardrail technology. I think it's called guardrail technology, which is kind of stabilizing technology that some of their shoes have. Again, I don't recommend that for the average person. But yeah, so the Ultra Torin is, I think it's maybe 28 millimeter, right around there, 27 to 28 millimeter stack height. So it's thicker than the Escalante Racer, and it's also cushier. So this is less of a performance shoe, and for me, it's more of a if I'm going to go for a long run and I'm not looking for time at all, I'm not looking to be too fast. I just want to put on some miles. I might just use this because it's comfortable. But again, it is zero drop. I don't think all ultras are zero drop. It has a natural toe box, nice and wide, so your toes can splay out. Again, not all ultras are like that. Some of them are more narrow and kind of like now it's becoming the popular running shoe that you see the Nike Alpha Flies and Adidas Adi Zeros or some of the Hokas. But anyway, again, Ultra. So Ultra Torin 6, they have the Torin 7 now. I do love Ultra, and I think they have great customer service and warranty. So does Zero. Zero has a 5,000-mile warranty, and I've utilized it, and they're great. Um, so yeah, if you have questions about running shoes, I think it's really important to do your research. It can be really tempting to go get, the newest and the latest and greatest, and what you see some of these fast marathon runners wearing. It's important to remember these guys and gals have close to perfect form. And so a lot of the susceptibility to injury that you and I might experience by wearing one of these so-called super shoes or these more in a more of a modern sense conventional running shoes, a lot of that isn't an issue for them because they have really nice form. But some of these shoes could be downright dangerous if you don't have really, really dialed in running form. And the benefit to performance from having a carbon plate in your shoe and all this other crazy gadgetry, I think is going to be far outweighed by the fact that you're really, again, opening up yourself to injury. And you can't perform well and compete at a higher level if that's what you want to do when you're injured. So that's it in a nutshell. I don't think there's a whole lot more I want to go into when it comes to running shoes. Again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you're looking for something that suits you better, you may want to consider some of what I brought up today. Most importantly, though, it's hard to fit this all into a video. So I would love if you wanted to carry on a discussion in the comments. Of course, if you know me personally, you can always shoot me a text or an email. You could reach out on my social media. But really, the comments would be an opportunity for me to not only engage with you personally, but for others to maybe profit from the discussion. So if you have more questions, feel free to leave a comment and we can go through and maybe figure out what would be best for you. I am by no means an expert, but I do have some experience. I have had some good trial and error, and some of it is trial and error. Some of it, like I had to learn. I kind of wanted to be like Mr. Barefoot. I'm going to wear only barefoot shoes or run barefoot forever. But I realized, for me at least, that was like, I think that was more of an aesthetic I was looking for and less of this real deep philosophy that was important to me. And so again, I like my comfortable ultra shoes. I like my barefoot shoes too. I like a mix. I like to have variety and options that I can choose. But yeah, those are some things for you to think of. Again, we want a shoe that gets out of the way so that your foot can do what it's meant to do. I think in our next video, we're going to be discussing more running gear, especially focusing on stuff like running watches, heart rate monitors, all that kind of good stuff. So until then, thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me. Please, let's carry on the conversation. Feel free to watch some more videos. And until we talk again, until I make another video, Take care, y'all.